Shalom, Israel. This is Truth Be Told TV. Today's lesson is a question. Have Yahweh grafted in the Gentiles? And the answer to that question is yes, but not the Gentiles that most people think. Many people in the Christian faith have looked at the Apostle Paul's writings and have misunderstood and misinterpreted the writings of Apostle Paul's letters to the church concerning the Gentiles being grafted in. What most people, or those that are of the Christian faith, don't realize is that the Gentiles that Apostle Paul is referring to are actually the Israelites becoming Gentiles to the Father because of disobedience. Now, when I say the Israelites, I am talking about the northern kingdom, which are the 10 tribes that were cut off from the other tribes, which are Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Those 3 tribes were considered the Jews. So when Paul mentions the Jews, he is referring to the 3 tribes that I have just mentioned. But when he says Israel, he is referring to the 10 tribes in which we are going to find out that they are the Gentiles that Apostle Paul is referring to. We're going to look at one passage of scripture as an example that many Christian believers will draw from to prove their point. And that scripture is in Romans chapter 9, verse 24 to 27. And it reads, 24, even us, whom he hath called, not of the Jews only, but also of the Gentiles. As he saith also in Hosea, which is also Hosea, I will call them my people which were not my people, and her beloved which was not beloved. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there shall they be called the children of the living God. Isaiah also crieth concerning Israel, though the number of the children of Israel be as the sand in the sea, a remnant shall be saved. Okay, now, many people will read this and assume that perhaps Paul is saying that the non-Jew or outside nations of Israel are not a people of the Most High Yahweh. But if you look at the reference that is given here when it says in Romans chapter 9, verse 25, when it says, as he says in Hosea, this gives a chain linkage to the source of the Apostle Paul's message. Now let's go to Hosea chapter 1 to see what Paul is referencing here. In Hosea 1 and verse 2, it says, the beginning of the word of the Lord by Hosea. And the Lord said unto Hosea, go take unto thee a wife of whoredoms and children of whoredoms. For the land hath committed great whoredom, departing from the Lord. The Most High wanted Hosea to go take a prostitute so that Hosea could experience the same sentiments he was feeling when being in love with a nation of the people that acted just like a prostitute, with whoring after other gods. Remember in Exodus 34:14, for you shall worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. Now let's look onto Hosea chapter 1, 3 and 5, where it says this. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, which conceived and bare him a son. And the Lord said unto him, Call his name Jezreel. For yet a little while, and I will avenge the blood of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu, and will cause to cease the kingdom of the house of Israel. And it shall come to pass that day that I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel. Okay. Now let me explain who Jehu is, whom the Most High said he would destroy his house. Jehu was the king of the northern kingdom of Israel, who overthrew the dynasty of Omri. Jeroboam II reigned under his dynasty from 793 to 752 BC. His son Zechariah barely reigned under 6 months before being assassinated, and you can find that in 2 Kings chapter 15, verse 8 to 10. And after killing of Zechariah, that brought an end to the northern kingdom of Israel. Just as the house of Jehu would fall, so would the whole kingdom of Israel. Before the prophetic ministry of Hosea was finished, Israel was defeated, destroyed, and taken captive by the mighty Assyrian Empire. And you can find that reference in 2 Kings chapter 17, verses 20 to 23. Now, let's talk about the son that Hosea's wife gave birth to, named Jezreel. The name Jezreel means scattered. The name Jezreel, I'm going to say it again, the name means scattered. So what the Most High was declaring prophetically with the name Jezreel was that he was going to scatter and destroy Israel. Now that we have a background understanding of Jehu and the fall of his dynasty and the meaning of Jezreel name, let's go further on and see what the Most High has to say about Israel in the northern kingdom. Let's look at Hosea 1 and 6, where it says, And she conceived again and bare a daughter. And God said unto him, Call her name Lorhamah, for I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. Okay, now this is the Most High saying that he will not have mercy on Israel and that he is going to take them away, or, in other words, cut them off. Keep in mind here that when he is talking about Israel, he's referencing the 10 tribes, which are the northern kingdom of Israel. This is not to be confused with the Jews, which, remember, I said are Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. All of Israel were not cut off. Just the 10 tribes that the Most High refers to as Israel. Now for Judah, he says, this in the next verse, he says, But I will have mercy upon the house of Judah, and will save them by the Lord their God, and will not save them by bow, nor by sword, nor by battle, by horses, nor by horsemen. You see, Yahweh said, I will have mercy on the house of Judah, which also included Levi and Benjamin. Then he says this. He says in Hosea 1 and 8, Now when she had weaned Lorhamah, she conceived and bare a son. And the next verse it says, Then said God, call his name Lo-Ami, for ye are not my people, and I will not be your God. Okay, so Hosea wife bore him another son called Loami, which means not my people. Not only did the Most High say, "You are not my people" to the 10 tribes of Israel, but he also said, "I am not your God." You can imagine the hurt the Elohim must have felt to have to say that to Israel, his son, his lost sheep that went astray. And this is why he had to allow Hosea bear the same burden that he bared so that he could understand exactly what he felt like. Now we are going to get into the scripture that Paul referenced, coming from the same chapter of Hosea, chapter 1 and 10. It says, "Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, Ye are the sons of the living God," or Yahweh. There it is. We see now that all this time Paul was referencing to this scripture, which the whole time he was really only talking about Israel, who became Gentiles in the eyes of Yahweh because of their rebellion of serving other gods. He said that in the place where it was said unto them, "Ye are not my people," there it shall be said unto them, "Ye are the sons of the living God." Why did Yah say this? Because he remembered the covenant that he made with Abraham concerning his descendants, saying, "Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea." And now he must fulfill that promise and bring the two kingdoms together. So, in the exact same place that he said, "You are not my people," he says, "You are my people." And look at what the last verse says here. It says in Hosea 1:11, "Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together and appoint themselves one head, which will be Christ. And they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel." See, then the children of Judah and the children of Israel shall be gathered together. Okay, when we look at that part right there, we see that God promised a restoration so complete that the division caused by the civil war from Rehoboam and Jeroboam the first, a division that stood for over 170 years, would one day be erased. The feud that they had against one another will be erased. And the part where it says, "For great will be the day of Jezreel," the first child, Hosea Gomer, was named Jezreel as a sign of judgment, right? But God promises a restoration so complete that Jezreel will once again be a name of greatness and not of judgment. Another scripture I would like to bring out is in 1 Peter chapter 2, 9 and 10. And this scripture is very similar. Well, pretty much the same because he's referencing it. And 1 Peter 2, 9 says, "But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light." Okay, in verse 10 it says, "Which in time past were not a people, but are now the people of God, which had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy." You see, even the book of Peter it gives the same reference of Hosea chapter 1, We know that the apostles had to reference this statement from the Most High Yah spoken to Hosea so that the lost tribe of Israel would understand and know that the prophecy and promise through Christ has been fulfilled. So Paul and Peter were clearly only speaking on the lost tribes of Israel when talking about the Gentiles. Remember, Christ said this in Matthew 15:24 when he said, I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. When Christ said this, he was talking to a Gentile woman who needed a miracle. The same exact woman that he called a dog. You know, the woman that was fighting to get to him because she needed a miracle. So basically, they called all the Gentiles, those that were not of the Jew or Israelite race, they called the other Gentiles dogs. It was common for them to call the Gentiles or the heathen dogs. And Yeshua knew that this woman was not an Israelite or a Jew. So this is why he called her a dog. And that is the end of this message and teaching. Everyone be blessed.